They're back. It's time for another edition of Budget Bombs. Powerful commander cards for under $1.
I'm Mia, and I really like putting removal in my decks.
I'm BZ. I love stretching out $1, and we are the Nitpicking Nerds, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. You can use code
NERDS
at checkout to save 5 real money tax dollar percentage points on your order.
If we're also talking about 5 real money tax dollar percentage points on your entire order, you're going to use the code
NERDS.
At Dragon Shield. Also, best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
You can use the link in the description below and then use the checkout code NERDS, and you're going to save 5 real money tax people Pollard dollars percent.
Ooh, Pollard dollars. Also sponsored by Moxfield. There's an ad somewhere in the video. You won't be able to predict it because you are not good enough yet. But feel free to try. You will fail. Happy birthday to everyone's birthday is today also.
We're back, baby. We got budget bombs here for you. We love building budget decks, and we're so excited to see some of the reprints and some of the new cards that we can talk about today.
Yeah, some of these cards are like first-time budget bombs. Some of them haven't really been mentioned in a budget bomb series ever before. And we're going to start with one of those. It's Path to Exile. 92 cents. White for an instant. Exile a creature. Its controller can search for a basic, put it into play tapped, and then shuffles their library.
I think this card is so amazing. I actually have been ranking it higher than Swords to Plowshares lately because we have been playing a little bit of CEDH here and there, and most people are not looking for those basics in the higher powers, but you could use that life to pay into effects like Necropotence or Adnaws. But even in lower powers, the life still is pretty notable.
Wait, would you rather give them a land or life in casual?
I think it really depends, considering in casual, for instance, even BZ and I don't play that many basics. I think that if we had a few basics on the field, it would still be kind of hard to put one out.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely not running out of basics in casual, though. So you're giving them a basic land. That's happening. I think I would rather play Swords, but Swords, we've already talked about it. And like Swords and Path, they go hand in hand. Usually you're playing both, and in some like tokens decks, sometimes Path has an alternate mode where it just ramps you, and you just get rid of a token or a creature you don't need, and all of a sudden you're catching up and you're hitting a land drop that you would have missed, or you're untapping with an extra land now and you can play your board wipe or something. Path has a lot of extra utility. It's a really strong card. I mean, did you need us to tell you that Path was great? You did need us to tell you that Path of Exile is 92 cents, and it's a budget bomb.
Moving on to a land that is only 9 cents is Desolate Lighthouse. You could tap it to add colorless or pay 1 red and blue and tap it to draw a card, then discard a card. This is really good in decks that you might need a little bit more card filtering in, or something that you might want to get stuff into the graveyard for.
This is good in any deck that is a budget deck that has blue and red in it, 2 or 3 colors, I would say, because it's 9 cents. It's like hilariously cheap. You basically can just sneeze and one of these will just appear. It's really, really cool that it is mild utility. You're not getting anything crazy. You're not cheating at all. You're paying 4 mana basically to draw a discard, but it's extra utility in the land slot. You could just replace a mountain. You can replace an island with this, and you just get an extra bonus card that does something. Usually those types of percentage points cost a lot of dollars, or even more than $1, so they wouldn't even be a budget bomb. But I'm super surprised and excited to see this at 9 cents. Go buy 10 of them, and you still won't even spend $1.
I've definitely used this in my Zephyr deck. I've seen you use it in Balmor, I think.
It's just a free roll, yeah.
But if we're talking about ramp, we're going to be talking about Utopia Sprawl at 69 cents and Wild Growth at 16 cents. Utopia Sprawl says you attach it to a forest and it'll tap for 1 additional mana of any color. Wild Growth says the same thing, except for it can attach to any land.
Yeah, but it only taps for green. But it's still, these cards that are attached to lands are kind of slept on. I know they see a lot of play. I'm not questioning that, but I think they're still slept on. Because these are basically mana dorks that have haste and don't die to 90% of board wipes. These cards are powerful, sneaky, sticky. People don't always evaluate them when looking at your board state, and they go, oh, you don't have any creatures, you don't have this is yeah, but I got 6 mana and you don't even know it. These cards are super strong. In a lot of cases, they're better than mana dorks. If you're not playing these cards in a green deck, you really should. They're almost complete staples.
They come down really, really early. As BZ said, they can be used immediately. And the fact is, they don't get swept up in creature board wipes. So they are a little bit stickier than most mana dorks would be, and they stay on the field a little bit longer.
Yeah, the only thing about Utopia Sprawl is that you got to be in a heavy green deck. So Wild Growth you can play in any deck that can reliably get green mana. But Utopia Sprawl, I'd probably stick to 1 and 2 color decks, or maybe 3 colors if you have a million fetches and shocks, but because you have to enchant a forest.
Yeah, I wouldn't be really interested in it, and in my Atraxa deck, for instance, and I run every Triumph that I can.
Yeah, that's too many colors, I think. Too hard to get a forest. You want it to make sure that it can always come down turn 1 or turn 2 to make the mana. Plus, the other thing about these is that unlike a mana dork, when they come down, they're mana neutral. You enchant a forest that's untapped, and now it just makes an extra mana, which pays for the card you just played. Really unmatched mana ramp.
provided you don't play it on just turn 1, it is great ramp. But if we're talking about lands that can also make more than one color, we're really excited to talk about Caves of Koilos at 38 cents, Yavimaya Coast at 43 cents, Shivan Reef at 73 cents, and Battlefield Forge at 78 cents. We put these in a lot of our budget decks. They're going to help us color fix, and for 1 life, just to get the colors we need, that's a steal.
Yeah, and if we don't need to color fix and we have enough lands in the late game, we'll just have it for a colorless. And some decks even want that colorless, so this is kind of like a weird untapped Triome for like the Eldrazi displacers out there. These cards are sweet. I do have to send an extra super apology to Llanowar Wastes. Not a budget bump. Did not make this list.
Yeah, actually, there's a couple that are more expensive than you think. A Darkar Wastes is like 3 something.
Yeah, they were printed in Brothers War and Dominaria United, the allied ones, but they haven't quite made it to budget bomb territory. They would need like 2 or 3 more printings, I think. But we'll take these, and really, I think on a budget, you're talking about $50, $20 decks. These should just go in every deck they possibly can because they're so cheap.
Even 50s, I'd be happy to put these in if the colors like really matched up.
Yeah, I got 4-color deck that's $20 that's playing the ones of these that I can because it's just I need the mana fixing. 4 colors, I need to spend some mana to make some mana. Let's hop over to our next one. This is Reality Shift at 29 cents, 2 mana for an instant. You exile a creature, then its controller manifests the top card of their library, so basically becomes a 2/2 with no abilities. If it's a creature, they could turn it up to pay its mana cost, but it's not going to trigger ETBs. It's mostly just going to be a dud. So you're going to turn their creature that does something into a creature that 80% of the time does nothing.
This is reprinting Commander Masters, and I'm so excited to put this in along with the other budget Blue Exile Resculpt.
Blue's weakness as a color is that it can't really deal with creatures that well. But there's like 5 or 6 cards that just answer creatures super efficiently, like Resculpt and Reality Shift, that just make people go, is blue really that bad at answering creatures? Because we just play all these. They're all singletons. We don't need 4 copies. We got 4 copies of 1 copy each. This card is very, very strong. It's one of the reasons that blue can't answer creatures at all. There's really only, like I said, 5 or 6 cards that can do this. Super nice to have in your arsenal. Super nice to have it as a budget bomb.
I'm so happy to have it as a budget bomb considering Pongify is like really expensive.
Yeah, so it's Rapid Hybrid. What's the next card?
Next one is Rise of the Witch King. One of the cards that I was pretty sure BZ was most excited for out of Lord of the Rings at 19 cents. 2 green black for a sorcery. Each player sacks a creature. If you sacked a creature this way, you can return another permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Note, it doesn't say creature, it just says a card.
Yeah, it says a permanent. I can get back a land, I can get back an enchantment, I can get back my biggest creature that wasn't what I sacrificed. You're going to sacrifice Chaff, you're going to sacrifice a Citrus Supplier or a token. They're going to most likely sacrifice a real creature because they're not playing the same deck as you. There's a good chance of that anyway. They're probably going to sacrifice a real creature, but even if not, you've got a 4 mana reanimation spell on top of a little bit of interaction. It like mixes everything that you want to be doing perfectly. The only thing about Rise of the Witch King is that can't play a million of this type of effect because it bogs down your deck. So not every deck's going to want this, but I have been trying it and I've been loving it.
It's really fun, and even if you happen to have one person who's like, oh, I'll just sack a token, it's fine. Not everyone's going to be able to do that. You're usually getting at least 2 creatures off the field.
These are the type of cards that I play a lot of, the types of cards that have potential to be a 3-for-1, and they can just take people out of the game. If you play enough cards like this, there's people that are going to be tapping out for their 4-mana commander, and you go, okay, everybody sacks a creature. You all lose your progress. You're completely set back to the Stone Age. Some of you are just, you feel awful because you're like, well, I just spent 4 mana on nothing. I'm like, well, hold on, I get more things. Let me actually get my best thing out now. And all while stopping you or slowing you down at least. And this just it's a lot when you start stacking these types of cards up. So definitely think about the 3-for-1 value potential that still advances your game plan.
I definitely feel bad for the people who are like, oh boy, I'm going to put out all these rocks and enchantments and stuff, and they put out 1 creature, and then you're like, oh, by the way, Rise of the Witch King, bye. Okay,
6-mana creatures that don't have ETBs, notoriously dead against me, because I play all those Soul Shatters and Plague Crafters and Rise of the Witch Kings, and their lives are going to be very short. Our next card is actually 5 cards. It's a cycle of cards that were recently reprinted in Commander Masters. This is Loyal Unicorn at 11 cents. That says, at the beginning of combat, if you have your commander, prevent the damage dealt to your attackers and they gain vigilance. Loyal Drake is 14 cents and it draws a card if you have your commander. Loyal Subordinate is 16 cents and it makes each opponent lose 3 life. Loyal Apprentice, 21 cents, make a Thopter with haste. And Loyal Guardian, 13 cents, that puts a counter on your entire team. I would say every single one of these is the sweetest of sweet spots for budget. They advance the game further. They put you ahead. If they stay out long enough, you're probably just going to win. They all have homes, some more specific than others. but they're all threats, or at least threat adjacent, that advance your game plan, get the game over with a little bit sooner, and cost like 0 cents. Combined, these aren't even $1.
These are some of those cards where if I have a big stack of them at home and I just need a couple filler cards for a certain budget deck or something, I'm never mad to put these in, especially the ones like Loyal Drake where I can just draw a card. There's some that aren't as good. I think the black one, the Loyal Subordinate, isn't as good, but as BZ said, it does have its home. For instance, the Doctor Who commander that says when everyone loses 3 life, they make a villainous choice. Well, this makes them lose 3 life, and that's amazing.
Super sweet. I love all of these. And I really like that all of them trigger right away. You're going to play them pre-combat and then go to your combat and get the thing that you want right away. You don't have to wait. This isn't a Bitter Blossom Phyrexian Arena scenario where you just don't get to have your fun stuff. They just give it to you, and then they're just going to keep giving things until you win the game. So I love all of them. Get them into your budget decks because you might be sleeping on them.
But one of the best value cards that we actually have on this list today is Moxfield.com, the best place online to build a deck.
We got you, and you know it. So that means you have to listen to our little spiel about Moxfield, because we're telling you, from the bottom of our hearts, this is the only way to build decks on the internet. I've tried Redacted. I've even tried Redacted. And they're all just not as good as Moxfield. I went to Moxfield to be a sponsor of the show because we loved them, not because I want money or anything. Moxfield's just fantastic, and it happens to line up with everything I want to do all the time.
One word I would use to describe Redacted: crusty. One word I'd use to describe Moxfield: sleek.
I was going to say sleek. That's how you know we're in sync. So definitely go to Moxfield. You're missing out if not. But you won't be missing out on our next budget bomb, which is there's no way you could predict what I'm about to say because it's just a random card. But it's Meeting of Minds. 12 cents, 3 and a blue, instant convoke, draw 2. This was kind of buried under all of the hype of March of the Machine. It's a common in the set. It's like, oh, it's another take on divination. But we really haven't seen this kind of thing. Like a divination instant that can be free. If your deck has like Talrand, Murmuring Mystic, even things like Loyal Apprentice, if you're making tokens and your commander does things and you want to cast instant sorceries, this can cost 0.
We've put a little bit of this in Limited, and it was very useful. We were able to cast it for 1 or 0 multiple times pretty consistently.
Yeah, and that's going to be even more true in Commander when your entire deck is constructed from all of the cards in Magic that you most want to play. Even on a budget, I think this card's sweet. You can play at low, you pass a turn, end step, you make some tokens, tap out for them, but now you have the tokens in play, and they can just convoke right away, and now you're just drawing 2 for free. I think this card definitely has homes. It's a little niche. It's not like a card you just put everywhere, but if you have a lot of creatures, or you can make a lot of creatures, and you care about casting instant and sorceries, I think Meeting of the Minds is for you.
A card that goes really well with Meeting of the Minds, and I'm surprised to actually see it on budget bombs, is Stormkiln Artist at 62 cents. 3 and a red for a 2/2. It gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, and it has Magecraft, which every time you cast an instant or sorcery, you make a treasure.
Yeah, so you're going to be firing off all these cheap instant sorceries. They kind of start refunding you a treasure, which you can either use right away to keep storming off, or you can save to have a really big turn next time around. This is just like a perfect card. This is the first time it's ever been a budget bomb. It was like $3-4, but the Commander Masters reprint finally killed it, and now we can play it in our, I actually just put this in a $50 deck because I can afford it now, and I'm super excited because this thing has infinites. I'm playing Haze of Rage in that deck, and Haze of Rage has Storm, which Magecraft cares about, to then make infinite treasures.
I'm super excited to see this. Commander Masters actually brought out so many good reprints, and I'm just really psyched to see that we could put this in budget decks now.
Next up, a card I play a lot. If I'm playing artifacts, I think you might agree with me. You're just playing this card. It's Scrap Trawler, 28 cents for a 3-mana 3/2. Whenever it or another artifact you control dies, you return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser mana value. So if Scrap Trawler dies, I can go get a 2-drop. If my 3-drop dies, totally unrelated to Scrap Trawler, I still get a 2-drop. If my 1-drop dies, I can go get Mishra's Bauble, the best card ever printed, and then get that back into play. It just leads to a lot of Cascade type value train. It's such an engine card. It's so good. It even has combos, even on a budget.
I've seen him wipe the entire board of artifacts and go, oh, so this one will go in first, and then I'll bring this one back, and then I'll get this one back, and then it kind of feeds into itself, and then you'll just get the Scrap Trawler back if you wipe the board of a lot of artifacts, and then you'll just play it again, and the entire cycle will start over.
Scrap Trawler is incredible against board wipes. If you, like you said, all of the creatures die at the same time because it's a board wipe. Now the triggers go on the stack and you target things. So if you had a 4-drop die alongside Scrap Trawler, the 4-drop gets back Scrap Trawler. And then Scrap Trawler's death can get back something else. And you're just like, what board wipe? I don't even know what you guys are talking about. And we all know that the artifact decks play a bunch of cost reducers like Ethereum Shaper and Foundry Inspector and Joyra's Familiar. So then you can make these loops that are not necessarily infinite, but sometimes you can even go infinite. And it's just such a pain. Such a pain, especially with sack outlets.
But if you're playing a deck with multiple colors and it includes black, I would consider putting Painful Truths in your deck for 13 cents. 2 and a black for sorcery, and it says draw 1, lose 1 for each color of a mana spent to cast this. So if you have 3 colors spent on this, you're going to draw 3 and lose 3, which is not a bad deal for 3 mana.
That's the sweet spot, though. I think if you can't cast this for 3, I really am not interested in it. So as long as my deck can do that pretty consistently, I am playing 3 colors. That's what I want. I don't want to play this in a 2-color deck. But if I can meet that criteria, 3 mana, draw 3 on a budget, when you're talking about a $25, $50 deck, maybe you're upgrading a precon and you only have $10 to spend. This is the type of card that I look for. It doesn't need synergy. It's just good. It's just flatline, like a pretty efficient rate.
I like putting a lot of colors in my decks, so this is one of the staples that I like to put along with like Stinging Study. But if your commander doesn't have that high CMC, then that's not that good. So this is a good one for those lower value commanders.
There is a really funny corner case with Painful Truths where, like you say, you love playing 5 and 4 color decks. If there's like a Thalia out that makes this card cost 1 more, you could spend 4 colors and then draw 4 on it, which is just super amusing. I always love that. It never comes up, but it is cool. The next card, very new to Budget Bombs as well. I'm thrilled. I might actually go out and just buy 10 of this card because I know I'm going to need Sky Shroud Claims, 3 and a green sorcery, search for 2 forests, put them onto the battlefield, 85 cents. They don't have to be basic forests. And even if they were basic forests, and they had to be, this would still be one of the best green ramp spells. So that's how far and away above all of these other 4 mana ramps this card is. It's so good.
I traded for this and it was like $4 or $5 or something.
Still felt like a good deal.
I still felt like it was a good deal. So seeing it below $1, I think you should pick up 10 too. I'll be stealing a couple.
It's chef's kiss because this thing just puts you so far ahead. I have played against this card many times. And a lot of times when the game spirals out of control and somebody else is the arch enemy, I think, what happened? Why did this game get so far out? And it's like, well, on turn 3, they played Sky Shroud Claim into another spell. And now that just ramped them into 7. And it's permanent because these are lands. I'm not blowing up lands. I'm not playing Armageddon in my decks. So this just puts them so far ahead so early that it snowballs. And it doesn't really matter what you do because they're going to have too many threats to answer. As long as they're drawing cards, Sky Shroud Claim puts you in the position to just keep pooping out threats left and right.
It's really impactful. I've gotten Triomes with it, and that's been great. I've gotten Shocks with it, and just dinged myself for 4 life, and then just cast another spell right after it. Nature's Lore even.
Yeah, this thing,
it's good.
It's only a 2 mana investment the turn you play it. You only spent 2 mana after you go get those lands. There's nothing to complain about with this card. Please play it. It's amazing. How about the next one?
Next one I've seen you play quite a lot recently in his Tristani deck, March of the Multitudes at 49 cents. X green white for an instant with Convoke that says create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink, and this can just explode a field.
Yeah,
so
surprise.
fast.
You have 15 creatures. You think, oh, he has an okay board, but he doesn't have any Lord effects out. Maybe he has an intangible virtue or something. That's not bad. I'm not going to die next turn, but when I double my creatures just by tapping my creatures and spending 0 mana, you're in trouble.
Yeah, this has definitely been good for like chump blockers or the cards that say whenever a creature comes in, gain that much life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good. The lifelink on it helps. It's just all in all, it plays a lot better than it reads. I'd say.
A lot of times this ends games. If you could just pass the turn, 6, 7 creatures in play, that's not that threatening. You end step play this, make like 15 creatures. It's really not that implausible. Untap, play an overrun effect, and the game's just over. Especially since these have lifelink, so even if someone survives or, 2 players go down to like 5 life, you're just at like 70 and you don't even care what happens next.
I think 70 is a little bit low considering I watched you get to 700.
Yeah, this is definitely part of the reason for those obnoxious life totals. So if you're thinking, this kind of looks like an expensive card, just because it's big and mythic and X, but this is not expensive. So if you're holding off on buying it for some reason, scoop it up. Our next budget bomb is actually a legendary creature, but we're playing him in the 99. He's very annoying. And if you don't know how to play against him, or if you don't know he's a threat, you're probably going to lose to him. It's Vadrik, Astral Archmage, 13 cents, 1 blue red for its 1/2. It has Daybound, so we can switch day and night, and then when day and night switches, he gets a +1/+1 counter, and instant and sorcery spells you cast cost Axelest, where Axe is his power. So on his face, he's a 3 mana Goblin Electromancer, grows himself over time if you switch, which isn't the most likely, but you can play spells that pump him as well. And then if he gets pumped, you are just having the most obnoxious turns possible.
This is one of the only cards, if not the only card, where I will put it in a deck and willingly keep track of day and night for the rest of the game. That's how powerful it is, and I'm so surprised to see it at 13 cents. It's really, really good. You're not probably going to be getting those day-night switches too often to build up his power, but for that 3 mana investment for the cost reduction, it really starts to add up after a while.
Yeah, Vadric is very, very good. I can't stress this enough. If you see Vadric, kill it. If you're playing against a Vadric commander deck, kill it or you are actively screwed. We're talking about the 99 where you're probably not going to use pump spells on him to like get that, but you could. Like there's still decks where you have a residual way to put a counter. You have a residual way to give him +3/+0 one time, and now all your spells cost like nothing. This card will bury you if you don't respect it, and that's a lot for a bulk rare 13-cent card.
I've seen it in his Balmor deck, and Balmor gives extra stats based on how many instants and sorceries you play. So he'll play an instant or sorcery, do whatever, make a goblin.
They are best friends.
Or whatever. He grows bigger, builds another one. His next thing's reduced by 6.
Yep, that's how it works. Vadric will get you. And we have another card. This is a card you maybe didn't even know existed because I, way back in the day, discovered it and I was like, I've never heard of this card before. It's Minions Murmurs, 21 cents for a sorcery. It is 2 black, draw X and lose X, where X is the number of creatures you control. We have not seen a lot of scaling black card draw like this, where you spend a low amount of mana and you get a large amount of cards. Not at 21 cents anyway. We're not playing ad nauseum.
I think this is very high risk, high reward because you could draw this right after a board wipe and you go, oh no. But also, if you have it and you just have the life gain and you have like 20 creatures out, you could go, wow, this is the best draw spell I can ever get.
4 mana, draw 5, lose 5 is amazing in budget. I think that's great. Even 4 mana, draw 4, lose 4 is better than like Ancient Craving, which I usually refuse to play. I want to at least get as many cards as mana. And if you're playing a heavy creature deck, that's a no-brainer. Just because there's board wipes running around doesn't mean we don't play cards that trigger and are better when we have a lot of creatures. That's the game plan, right?
Yeah, we need a lot of card draw, and honestly, a lot of Black's card draw is pretty pricey, like money-wise at least.
Yeah, some of the bigger ones are going to run you an arm and a leg, but you can throw in Painful Truce if you're a 3-color deck. But if you're a creature deck, I would definitely recommend Minions Murmurs. Losing 5 or 6, not the end of the world. Super powerful effect, and I think a lot of people are going to go, what? That's like a green card. Green cards do that. What are you doing?
You're going to be getting a lot of cards off of this, provided it's in the right deck. But if you actually want to see other budget cards, you can look at our top 10 budget cards from Wilds of Eldraine right about here.
I'm pretty sure you forgot almost all of them because they are not cards you would think of.
What's the tip for the day?
The tip for the day is to discipline your cats when they're being mean.